Good morning and welcome to the Thursday, April 18th, 2024 meeting of the trustees of the public burial grounds. I now call this meeting to order. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask that anyone else in the audience who's recording this meeting to please identify themselves and state your name and your address. I don't see anyone present in the room or virtual. At this time, I'll ask that all electronic devices be placed into the silent mode. Okay, so I'll conduct the roll call. The meeting is starting at 9:04 a.m. And I'll call your name, just say present. Andy Hawthorne.
Here, present.
George Marjanian.
Here.
Michelle Shepherd, absent. There's no one remote as of yet. Others present, Jacqueline Poirier, Superintendent of the Cemetery Department, Nick Erickson, DPW Commissioner. And let's see. And I don't see anyone for public comment yet, so we'll just skip on down to the agenda. And we'll take it out of order because Petros Davos from Answer Advisory is going to join us remotely, but he's not passed through yet. So we'll go to, let's see, let's do.
You know if you got a link to join the meeting?
It was on the agenda, the city clerk link.
Do you know, did he request one?
He didn't ask me for anything and the city clerk didn't say anything to me. Which, do you want me to ask her? We can pause for a moment.
Do you have Petros's cell phone number?
I probably do somewhere.
I'm just wondering. Maybe he needs a link to join.
Well, I sent him the agenda though.
But he was still in the link, yeah.
In the packet, it has a mobile number here.
In the back.
On the first one where he sent the email, on the second page,
Oh, yeah.
it has a mobile number.
Okay, we'll take a short pause while we try to connect with Petros. Who's that? But
I think it pause.
oh yeah, I see it. Okay. All right, well, while you're doing that, yeah, why don't we just, if he comes in, we'll just switch back over to him.
Yeah, that works. I'll just text him.
Okay, yeah. So let me see here. So the next, why don't you, Jacqueline, why don't you give us your report? Let me see what I do with you. Yep, so,
The packet I gave you,
yeah,
right there.
I can't find it now. I have it all up. Oh, there it is. Okay, good.
So basically, we are in spring cleanup mode in all the cemeteries. We're currently thatching and we'll be overseeding the Memorial Gardens area. We had an accident at Forest Hill on the Rollstone side. And there's pictures on the back there that they're going to be fixing that. I put a claim in, and so that
I'm assuming that
that'll
was
be
a car,
fixed.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, a car hit it, but we did have their insurance, so we will be getting it fixed. My gentleman just put a temporary fix on the fence just to make it safe. because as you can see, it was, down.
We get hurt.
I don't know that. I just have the police report. They also filled a large, washout at Laurel Hill on the Laurel Street side. It's where the stairs are that are blocked off. It's just been super rainy with a lot of high volume and it, so they fixed that area and they're looking to fix another area in, Forest Hill that kind of happened as well. So with, the water in section Q and the water in the columbarium area and getting that area set for the next unit, due to budget constraints, I'm coming to you and asking, that you release some of the perpetual care expense account to pay for this. I don't have exact figures. I did give you a printout of, where our account is that we can spend. I'm asking for, not to exceed 60,000.
Okay, so. Time out.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
All right, let's back up. So the water issues in the Memorial Garden and section Q
Yes,
needs what? More work?
we need drainage,
Drainage.
yeah, we need some drainage and possibly some fill in the columbarium area. Not sure exactly what the total cost would be. And certainly I'd rather go in front of you once and the council once to say not to exceed 60, but I hope not to spend that.
So you haven't gotten a quote yet, or?
Well, we're gonna be doing it in-house, so the
Okay.
engineers have, been able to give us a figure, for section Q, but we don't have anything for the columbarium, so I just wanted to be on the safe side, and let you know that, I won't exceed this 60, but I'm hoping not to, come close to it, but.
Okay, so I have a question in section Q, because I just walked through there yesterday.
Yep.
It's filling up like crazy, so where is the water issue?
The
It's
wall,
all groundwater that's breaking out from that embankment there where electric cab is.
Where the,
Oh, I was looking at it.
so we can just switch them.
I'm so sorry about that all. No worries.
Oh, no problem.
Sorry, Petros, thank you for filling me out.
Marty, this is like, let's see, quality. And here I go breaking my car rules.
Okay, so Petros Davos from Answer Advisory has just joined us at 9:11. We're gonna switch over to you, Petros, when you get ready, and then that way you won't have to stay for the whole meeting. Let's see what I got here. This. We'll take up the superintendent's report after you're done, or that's okay with you, otherwise you'll be sitting here through all the boring stuff.
No worries. So just a general update on progress?
Yeah, yeah, we all received your packet. The board members have just gotten your packet, this morning. I don't believe they had a chance to look through it all, so it's pretty in-depth. And I went through it yesterday and I had a few questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's my questions on it, if they don't have. Okay, I'll give you the floor for that.
So just to give you all an update on a few of the deliverables and the work that Spencer and Answer have been putting in behind the scenes. We did issue phase one, which phase one was identified as exterior roof, site work, ADA and accessibility work. That was what Spencer had kind of identified and deemed as critical in order to kind of stop the bleeding, stop the damage to the building, the deferred maintenance issues, obviously over the years, due to the roof, the re-roof, few years back. So during their kind of site investigation work, that's what they identified as paramount to preserving the structure of the building. That phase one schematic design drawing set was issued to the cost estimator on the 27th of March, and I did receive that last night. I've had a chance to review it a little bit, but not in depth. But overall, the pricing that we received actually seems in line with what we were anticipating. It was about $1.5 million total for the roofing work, for the exterior masonry, repointing, I think even that includes kind of new installation of procurement, new stones and whatnot. So once I dive into that estimate, I will obviously share that with you all, but provide comments to Spencer as well. But, the pricing seems to be pretty positive. So we're excited about that. Phase two has been distributed to PM&C last night as well. So PM&C has those drawings now, and I can get those for you as well. And we're anticipating a 2-week turnaround time to get pricing back for the interior work. That's plastering, painting, the stained glass work, carpeting. I believe we're ripping up the carpet, replacing it, some tile work that's going to be refurbished. So that's going to be all of your interior work, which is your aesthetics. The exterior work, that phase one work was more important, but that phase two we anticipate it being less cost. So, where I see this landing, all in all, the full scope of work, and obviously don't quote me on this, but, we think we'll certainly be at about $2.5 million when all is said and done. And that may even include designer and procurement, owners, management costs as well. So, the budget seems to be pretty good, and the work that needs to be done to ensure that the building will, live for the next 100 years. This is the work that we think needs to be done. And it seems like it's actually falling in line with what we hoped it would. So, obviously we'll get more information. But, the asbestos stuff was an issue that we'd have to add to the budget. That was something that we kind of anticipated. It was probably there, but you have to obviously investigate. So there was some asbestos containing materials in the roofing material, some of the sealants, and it was the flashing mastic as well.
Yeah,
so
seemed like a lot of the roofing material was designated or
correct,
identified as hazardous.
And their theory on that was, when they had done the re-roof work,
Right.
they probably had a feeling that it was asbestos containing. That's why they just roofed right over it rather than, really remove it. So
Not to interrupt you,
No.
but when you're talking about removal now, complete removal of all the contaminated material, does that mean that's maybe an additional cost?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be. We'd obviously identified, within construction contingency and certain testing line items, we
Yeah.
identified that we probably need some testing done, but we hadn't accounted for the scope of work required.
Okay, testing.
So now we have this rough order of magnitude of about $75,000 that, that's the cost all in to come in and abate that asbestos containing material and basically get you ready to go for construction.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's on the roof. Are you talking, what is it, like an insulation?
I think so, yeah.
Can that be encapsulated rather than removed?
I can certainly ask. I mean, I haven't had a ton of time to kind of dive into this, but I can certainly ask, if there's any way to.
Because nobody's gonna come, as far as public, is gonna come in contact with, and you're putting a membrane up there with stone. I mean, yeah.
No, yeah.
Now, another question is, would it behoove us to change the style of the roofing material, seeing how they haven't had much luck with a membrane in the past, or with something seamless?
I think they're definitely they put a lot of thought into the products and materials that they're using. I haven't seen the specific, actually, I think it is actually in the schematic design drawing, what they've specified for the roofing product. But I know that that was certainly something that it was gonna be, top of the line. We're gonna give you the Rolls Royce on the roof because there's gonna be no more problems, but I can confirm what the spec is. But I'm sure that they're gonna get away from whatever was installed there previously.
In your packet, and I apologize, I probably should have mailed it out to each of them individually so they could have taken a look at it, but in this schematic design here, I think that's what you call it, right?
Yep.
If you look at it, it will give you the roof repair and replace exactly where it's gonna be, what they're going to be repairing and replacing. Like limestone, because that's not the roof, but on that's not page wise, but on the east level, they're gonna replace the limestone unit, they're gonna remove and reset stone. I thought I saw something on here about roofing.
Yeah,
Um,
so they're removing the existing ballast stone membrane and the underlayment, and then providing and installing a new adhered PVC membrane and all associated flashing.
Yeah,
So
which one are
PVC,
we on? What
this is EX 101,
101?
existing roof plan, and it's gonna be that top right note next to the roof legend.
Oh, here.
Did they know there was asbestos there prior to making a plan?
So, they had a feeling after their walkthrough in January, when they had done some roof cuts. But prior to that, obviously with an older building, you have, questions, but they were definitely, based on their walkthrough in January, had identified some things, the way that certain caulkings looked, sealants, where they said, we need to investigate these and get samples. And then that's unfortunate, the news that we got this week.
Well, I guess my question is you shot out a price of $1.5 million. And then you said that they discovered asbestos. And that I think it just like 75,000,
Yeah,
which I think is awful on the low side. I think it'll be more than that. But anyway, I just don't understand why, if they suspected it, that wouldn't have been inclusive in the price of the roof total rather than piecemealing it like this, after the fact. They knew this prior to the plan.
yeah, no, understood. I think that this report came in after these items had been shared with the estimator, and obviously this is a bottom line cost that we'll have on the budget. It won't be included on the construction scope. We'll have it as its own separate line item. But, I agree that the pricing is based off of unit pricing. We obviously haven't gone out to bid to abatement contractors, so we don't know for sure. But, they quantify these costs based on, what the material is, how much of it exists, and, unit pricing on standard rates, Monday through Friday.
So all that stone you got up there now would have been exposed, so then it all have to be replaced with new, right?
Well, what they specify here
Yeah.
is remove existing ballast stone membrane and underlayment, provide and install new adhered PVC membrane and flashing. So
Yeah.
what they're gonna do is they're gonna take off all the stone, they're gonna take off the existing rubber membrane, they're gonna take off all the existing asphalt shingle layers underneath. So that's where that 75,000 comes in, because once they take that off, they're gonna abate it and they're gonna make sure they wear the right PPE and all that stuff.
I'm not saying this, in my experience in power plants anyways, usually when a roof, you find asbestos on a roof, like the old power plant they tore down in West Fitchburg. They usually have it's like it used to be like an inch thick. It was like a board that they laid down, and it was asbestos.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in, everybody thinks it's in the, shingles or whatever. No, this is actually, pieces of asbestos all on its own, about the size of the table that they would put down, soundproofing,
Right.
whatever. And I'm saying that's, given the age of this place, I would say that's probably what they're finding, or am I wrong?
I can certainly get more information.
Because then it's gonna be as big and altogether different.
Right, no, understood, yeah. My understanding is that it's isolated and they're able to abate it and, just once it's complete, the area is clear and we'd be able to, assume construction from that point. But I mean, I understand, this stuff's been there. Who knows if when they were doing the new roof a few years back, whether they disturbed it and, where it's gone. Obviously with asbestos, you don't know, but I can get more information and try and get on a call with Buxton O'Neill, who's the hazmat consultant, and at least better understand what kind of their interpretation of it is and where this $75,000 gets us.
So one last question on that subject. Is there any way that while they're doing the abatement portion of it, that any of that could get into the building itself inside? Because if that's the case, then that's gotta be all cleaned out before anybody can go in there. I mean, it is public.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, my understanding is they'll certainly set up containment areas, probably interior and exterior, as far as I know. I mean, they're gonna take the whole building over and just go ram busters on it. But, I think a lot of these questions I can certainly get from Spencer and Buxton O'Neill to better understand what their plan is. And then obviously, once we go out to bid and procure a contractor, kind of their logistics and, we can further refine that scope then. But I mean, these are all good questions that I can follow.
So I have a question, just so that I'm clear. Once the removal products from the roof, once all the roofing material is taken off the roof, from what I was reading yesterday and reading the schematic here, once you get to that process, what is on the roof? Like, what would be the base of the roof?
Just
Is that
whatever the decking is.
whatever the deck is?
Yeah.
Is that what Andy's talking about? He thinks that might be asbestos boarding or something?
Yeah, I think where do you trace the asbestos to?
Okay, so when you remove that, what you had, an open ceiling or an interior, from the interior up, or we don't know yet?
We'll obviously realize based on their demo plans, what point we're ripping the roof down to. It's probably just gonna be the decking, and from that point, when you're ripping, the insulation up and
Yeah.
whatnot, you're thinking that the particles that may have existed there during abatement and demo were gonna be removed entirely.
Well, I can't find it on here, but I know I read it, and it seems it's the back flap, so there was some flapping. I think that's what,
Flashes?
not like flashing or something that they were talking about. I had to blow up the images so I could read what it was saying. It was on the roof anyway, and it related to I think it's some of this stuff here that's on EX 201. I can't really read that small print, but that's what I was reading. So they don't think all of the roofing has asbestos, but some of the roofing does.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, no, just the areas that they've identified, certain materials, and, that's.
okay, so has anybody got any questions for Petros? Because now we'll come down to the finances, which Nikki, I got a little letter right here this morning that says, so I'm gonna let you have the floor.
So we've been instructed by the mayor's office to take our FY 25 budgets, level fund them, and then cut an additional 3 to 5% off of that. My understanding is that the city's insurance went up by 22%, and that's all current employees plus all the retirees. So that's a pretty big funding gap to overcome. And my understanding is that's why there's such a big shortfall, in addition to a few other unforeseen expenses that have come up. I think school transportation was one of them. So they're trying to figure out how to close that gap. As you know, labor rates have gone up recently. Electric costs have gone up recently. Fuel costs have gone up recently. So even when you ask us to level fund our budgets, it means we're still dealing with all these increases that we can't control. So we're having to squeeze our expenses anyways. So level funding still means cutting. And then we're being asked to cut on top of that. So there's, my understanding is there's absolutely no free cash or capital funding available for projects like this. We've been asked to take projects that are in process and put them on hold. We've been asked to run all non-emergency overtime expenses through the mayor's office, et cetera. So there's a lot of things being put in place to try and control spending, just to make sure that the city's not overspending or, entering a worse financial situation.
Okay, so that's the budget that's coming out May 17th-ish,
Right.
whatever. What about the certified free cash? That doesn't get certified until like June or July, isn't that
So
money?
usually it gets certified sometime in the fall for the
Okay.
previous fiscal year. So I believe FY 24's free cash was certified sometime this past fall,
Right.
winter. And I believe the number that I saw was somewhere around 6 million,
Yeah,
plus or
that's,
minus, don't quote me. And I think that has already been taken up with all the unforeseen expenses and some of the insurance increases and all that. So we're being told that none of that free cash is available for any capital projects.
okay. So I'm going to appeal to the public who's listening out there. We need some help with funding. Anybody that can donate money, give us money, help us support this project. Please contact DPW Commissioner Nick Erickson or the Superintendent of the Cemetery Department, Jacqueline Poirier, or myself, Judith Perla, Chair of the Trustees of Public Burial Grounds. I put a call into the, or I should say, I put an email into the present city solicitor asking us if it is permissible for trustees to fundraise. I haven't heard back. I was told by the mayor's office that I need to make an appointment with her. So I have an appointment, but not until May 8th, so Wednesday, that they're here in the office. We're gonna talk about funding as we go through the agenda, but I've been beating my brains out trying to find people to contact with. And I'm a little fish in a big pond and I don't know anybody. I really don't. I have no connections with anyone. I don't know foundations. I don't know anybody at the Wallace Foundation, the Crocker Foundation. However, I do have a list of people that was listed in the Fitchburg Historical Society little newspaper, February 2024, with all these foundations, business leaders, business sponsors, business patrons, and business members who have donated money throughout the city. I don't know how to get a hold of them. I tried looking them up. I tried finding phone numbers. I actually went to the Community Foundation of North Central Massachusetts and spoke with a young woman there who was very gracious, told me that we do fall under one of their funding sources. The form for next year comes out in, believe she said June or July. She's gonna put me on the list. I don't know if it's a grant or what it is, but it's some sort of application.
I think it's for grants through the Community Foundation. We've gotten grants in the past for some work in the parks and some work with
Right.
trails.
Oh, yes, I looked all that up.
Yeah.
However, the most that they do usually grant is like $10,000, which, we could start with that and put it in a little kitty
I think
and earmark it for what we need it
I think
for.
we're gonna need to cobble together a lot of small sources if we're gonna hope to get this project moving forward. So
And-
10,000 from here and 20 from there, and I think these little grant programs are gonna be.
So the next part of that dilemma is, I don't know how to write a grant. I don't know how you even find a grant. I've been searching online. I've asked different people. I've asked this young lady because her title is Director of Grants and Impact at the foundation, but she doesn't write grants. So in order to find someone to help us, we have to pay a grant writer, which is expensive, I've been told.
Yeah, honestly, I don't see where we would get extra money to
Yeah.
hire a grant writer,
Right,
with what we're dealing with now.
so,
Just a point on that,
yeah, Andy,
Pittsburgh Fire Department, sorry. They have one of their lieutenants, used to be my neighbor, and they were fantastic in writing their own grants. That's why they get new fire trucks and what have you, is they find the grants, they write the grants themselves, I believe. And I'm just saying, maybe possibly reach out. I had talked to him before a couple of years ago
Mhm.
when we were talking about grants. And they seemed receptive to the idea of maybe helping us out if we ask them.
Okay, so are you offering to
I'll reach out to them.
reach out to him and see who we, you know, ask him to give us some sort of direction?
Yep.
I mean, if he can't help us personally, maybe he can write down a list of things we're supposed to do. My understanding is that some of these grants are really involved and you have to be careful on your wording. And then I wanted to ask you, Petros, seeing as how Liz Spence, Mrs. Spencer is a grant writer.
That was I had written that down.
I know we probably have to pay her as well, but she's involved with this. Is there any way that she can help us out
I
or,
can definitely ask.
okay,
I can definitely ask. I have not broken the news to them yet, just
okay,
in regards to the
Yeah.
funding. But I have a check-in plan with them this week and, obviously gonna have to tell them what's going on, but I'm sure that, she'll at least be a resource for us.
well, see those list of papers?
Yeah.
These are all people that I have contacted and written down notes and I've gotten nowhere. Now, my other understanding is that some of these larger donors just donated to the Crocker Restoration Fund, Crocker Field, and they were the Crocker Foundation. I don't know where to go at this point, and I'm very, 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 very personally disgusted and upset. Sorry. Because we've come this far, we finally got the project moving after the 7 years I've been on this committee, and prior to that, the Friends group. So anybody out in the public that wants to help us out and start a Friends group, you can be a 5013C organization and you can fundraise and ask for donations. So my question to the solicitor was, we were told by the mayor's office that we can fundraise, but I want to make sure that that's legal to do as trustees, because typically we're employees of the city. And I don't know if that's against any kind of ethics rules or violations, or, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. She hasn't responded to my email. So I'm left out in the loop on that one. So totally upset about this whole project. It got started and the former administration, DiNatale administration, gave us the funding for what we're up to now. And now you're asking us or we're gonna have to come up with what, at least $1.5 million for that roof,
I think,
plus the 75,000?
yeah, so, right now, if we said we can do it, we get, a guy says, I'm gonna write you a check tomorrow. Right now, if we needed to proceed with this project, and we just addressed, and we can obviously take scope out if we felt we
Yeah.
needed to, but if we just addressed the phase one,
Right,
we would need to pay Spencer to produce the documents.
right,
They would need to, complete construction administration and bidding. They'd have to get us a revised proposal for that. So the designer costs are not complete yet.
right.
So yeah, you're probably looking at about $2 million.
Yeah, okay, and so that documents cost was the 3 items, the bid phase, the construction phase, and then the documents or something before.
And those estimates were based on
Yeah, they're just,
full project.
okay,
So if we said, all right, we can just do phase one,
right,
those estimates would obviously
okay.
increase in cost.
Because we did talk about phase one with the Spencer Group,
Yep.
that, possibly we'd have to break it out
Yep.
because of the finances. And the most important thing is that we can get that roof secured and the end caps, the end caps with the, what you call the little T things that the water doesn't go in, and all of the masonry, is that included in that?
All that.
Yeah, okay.
All that exterior envelope, roof, and site work to address drainage issues, I believe.
Right.
And accessibility would be a great.
Okay, great. So that's the money we need right now. And if that can happen, then we solve the major problem, right? The interior fix can come later over time, or as we can get appropriations. So again, I'm appealing to the public, and I'm very upset that all these other projects in the city, I mean, right now they're on hold, but I don't believe that for a minute. Sorry, I don't believe it. I know they're gonna get funded somehow, because somebody out there is gonna donate money. And we need this money. And I had a little script I was gonna read to you all. And I was gonna ask you, Nick, if you could put up on YouTube. I found a video which was very disheartening. It was about the Rhode Island cemetery, or excuse me, mausoleum in the city, in one city in Rhode Island that was abandoned. And if you watch that video, you'll be in tears. The desecration that went on in that mausoleum, in the tombs, and the interior things, graves were robbed. And I can see that happening here. I mean, not to anybody's discredit in this room, because we have an active cemetery that takes pride in what we do. But if we don't get the funding for that mausoleum, it's gonna crumble down around us, and it's been standing for 100+ years. So we need $2 million, people. Help us out. I'm sorry.
Did you want me to find the video and play it?
Can you do that?
Yeah.
All right, I can give it to you here. Let me see.
I'd like to point out that actually, we were given actually a list, Liz Murphy provided us a list of foundation and charitable trusts. Now, this is not a complete list of all the foundations and charitable trusts that are available. Appealing to our viewers, we have viewers actually who have actually ancestors who
Oh,
are
yes.
they don't have to be buried actually in the mausoleum, but they're buried in Forest Cemetery.
Yes,
We have actually
yes,
in Fitchburg and beyond
Yes.
Fitchburg, people who are watching now, who have loved ones who are interred in Forest Hill Cemetery,
Right.
of which the mausoleum is a part.
yeah,
They may be aware of foundations or charitable trusts in their either families or relatives or someone that they have actually knowledge of other foundations that actually they get aware of. Maybe they can bring to our attention what these foundations, of which we don't have a complete list of foundations that exist. I think we should actually ask those viewers, if they have any knowledge, any foundations that could actually help us actually in funding, we'd appreciate that information. Because we don't have a complete list of existing foundations that possibly could help us, yeah.
They make a point too.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be foundations. I
No.
mean, even if
an
you can afford
individual.
$10,
Right.
Right.
I mean, I don't want the public to think that, unless you can donate $1 million, we're not
No.
interested. Anything, a dime, $10, $100, whatever. You get so many people out there, like retired funeral directors, that have done business with Jackie, that, who knows, they probably may want to donate, or give, but I mean, I'd say, at this point where we are in dire straits, we can use whatever the public can give.
Well, Jacqueline made a list for me. We have 4 in the mausoleum that we know of, because we're not able to get the full list just yet, but Jackie's gonna work on that. We have 2 Civil War men buried in the mausoleum, and we have 2 World War I veterans buried in the mausoleum. And then this booklet here that she gave me is a list of all of the people buried in the mausoleum. And, so, you know, I'm looking for veterans groups, I'm looking for veterans that are private citizens, I'm looking for anybody that can give us a few dollars, write us a check to the city of Fitchburg, put on your check, designated for mausoleum repairs would be helpful. But this video, I don't know if it'll be live on TV.
So it's 23 minutes long, I don't know.
Well, no, just, I think there's a,
Want to watch the few?
yeah, there's like some advertising in the beginning. But it goes into the,
Landed too long.
And so what I need to do is share so that the public can see it.
okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So just tell me if you want me to fast forward or pause or.
Yeah, we'll start it, I think, yeah, here we go. So this,
Beautiful cemetery is the burial place of many families, most of the wealthy and national.
yeah, there you go.
Main city center across the nation. This
Does that look like ours?
old cemetery
No.
now becoming collected and becoming part of the city landscape. Over the years, as the neighborhood surrounding it changed from affluent to working class and now to low income, sadly.
This city just abandoned this mausoleum. Look at it.
Debris, trash, and rubbish. This sacred place was once regularly visited by families and blessed with rituals of souls, and now become recognizable and unsafe. In recent years, family members no longer visited their deceased loved ones at the burial place because in fact the family plots have become so overrun with waste, broken tree limbs, overgrown grass, and city street trash. They were embarrassed to visit the place.
I think you can
Some great
probably
parts
fast
no
forward to the
longer visible,
mausoleum.
as they now have become completely swallowed by
There you go.
nature.
So do we know if this is a municipal cemetery or is this a privately owned cemetery?
It's a city in Rhode Island. It says it on the video. And it was
High.
10 months ago, this was shot. Let me see if I can. Oops, hold on.
Your skin isn't the same as everyone else's. That's why agents go visit. Use your mark on personalized.
Well, they were trying to them closed by the city municipality.
You don't have to show us, but I just wanted to give you an idea as to what happened. I have another one on my phone of the same situation. It was a mausoleum. This is a city in Rhode Island. I think it's Warwick. I'm not 100% sure. But even if it were a privately owned mausoleum, why would anyone let it get to that point? I mean, where is that city? What are they doing?
Well, if it's a privately owned cemetery, if it's abandoned, then the city automatically has to take over.
And would you want to take over something that looks like that if you were a city?
No.
All right, so we don't want our mausoleum to look like that in any way. That's enough. That's fine, thank you.
That's a very powerful message.
That's terrible, and I'm gonna cry.
And if you take pride in the city that you live in, you should never allow your mausoleum in the city you live in to reach that state, you know, and that should never happen in the city of Pittsburgh. Our mausoleum should never actually reach that stage, yeah, that we saw here, in that mausoleum in Rhode Island.
Well, you know, I don't know how else to reach people, other than to, prey on their good nature, their heartstrings, whatever, I don't know. I know a few counselors have said to me, quote, nobody cares about dead people. Nobody cares about the mausoleum. We got bigger fish. Well, I'm sorry. The people in this room care. I care. And there are people out there that care. So get on the bandwagon, people, and help us out. So I have a couple more questions for you, Petros, in regards to the diagram. Thank you for that, Nick. I just wanted to know, on one of these diagrams, they have here, outside light posts where the, walkway is gonna go in. We don't have light posts there now. Is there a reason why we need light posts? Because, I mean, I know there's electricity to the building, but, it's where the, stairs,
Site plan,
yeah, where they're putting the new walkway.
new light posts and fixtures, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd assume it's probably just a code thing with the ramp going in, but,
Oh,
I
okay.
can confirm.
Okay.
Um,
If you think maybe.
I would think, yeah.
Given the video we just watched, maybe it would be a good idea to keep the area lit,
Well,
or at least motion sensor lights.
so let's get through this and then I'll address that because I am going to address that. That's on my agenda. The other thing I wanted to ask is on our minutes, not our minutes, but our agenda is they have the copper downspouts
Yes.
on here, but they were stolen
Yes,
after 100
yes.
years. So do you think maybe we could just do a look-alike
I think we could absolutely
Yeah,
do
you know.
that. We could paint them,
or, well,
at that
a
point,
mirror?
if we're not paying for the copper, you don't want to pay for the
Yeah.
copper downspouts, yeah, we can definitely.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe it's like $10 less, but
No, 100% agree
we
that.
don't want them ripping off copper downspouts and then we're right back where we were before. So anything that we can simulate that kind of looks the same, but not truly.
And, you know, just to reiterate,
Yeah.
these are living, breathing documents.
Yeah, they
nothing
change.
final.
Yeah, okay.
This is just their first pass at it. Comments like these are going to be incorporated. We'll sit down with your team, with the
Yeah.
Spencer team, and we'll go through all this
Okay.
stuff and they'll make any necessary revisions to
All
it.
right,
So,
well, thank you for that, and I appreciate it very much, believe me, and, a lot of hard work going into this, and I appreciate everybody's input. So again, the issue is the money. Whoop-de-doo. That's the money. But I have looked at some things, someone told me this isn't gonna work, like a GoFundMe page or Just Giving page. We could try to do something like that. But just so people know, you know, cemeteries serve as a sacred space. And, I can't talk about that. Okay,
Question?
yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Suggestion. I mentioned it to George on the way in, he thought it was worth talking about. FATV.
Oh, yes, that's where I was
Barbara
going.
and you.
Yes,
She
Thank you for
gets
that.
out to a lot of people.
yeah,
Maybe go on there and explain the dilemma on her show. It gets out, I'm sure far more people watch her show than are watching us right now.
Yeah.
At least get it spread out. Is there another show? If I'm-
There's Inside Pittsburgh.
there is-
Yeah. yes, with Beth Walsh.
Beth Walsh.
Yep. Yes, there's a number of shows. I was gonna contact Nate Glennie and see how I go about doing that. If one or two of you gentlemen or Jacqueline, I know you don't wanna be on TV, but,
There's also Scott Lane, who does North
Scott, yeah,
Central,
North
North
Central.
Central Journal.
right,
Excellent show.
yeah.
Just
So,
that.
so I'm one of those people that does watch all those shows on TV, because there's nothing else to watch, and I like to stay abreast of what's going on in the city, so that was my next move, was to, contact, FATV and see if they could even give us 15 minutes of their program where we could discuss what's going on with the mausoleum, where we are at.
Pictures.
And then just, put the plea out there that, we need some help, and if anybody out there is willing to invest their time to help us, we'd appreciate it. I also, well, I guess it's not gonna matter now, but I had drafted a letter to the mayor, like we had done before. You can talk about that, I'll give it to you and you can look it over, but maybe we should send it anyway, I don't know.
I mean, we could send it anyways, it's not gonna hurt, I don't think it's gonna get us anywhere.
Yeah. But make me feel good.
At least it'll be on file.
Pardon me?
At least it'll be on file, so it indicates that we tried.
Yeah, okay, so I'll pass that out later.
And I do just want to make it clear, I don't think there's any intent behind the budget situation. Like, I don't think the mayor's office is saying, well, this project isn't important. I think she recognizes that this project, among all the other projects, is important. I think the reality is just what the numbers say, and that right now we're a little more in the red.
But I just can't understand where all that money went, because there was free cash. I mean, is that what they're calling, what's the other word for the free cash account? The,
Available funds.
available funds.
Free cash.
Yeah, available funds. I understood from the previous auditor that there was monies that was left over, and then there's money from last year's free cash. So how do you use up like almost $8 million? I mean, even if these other expenses have increased, I just can't believe that.
I think some of it went to snow and ice. I think that's, that's used to level fund the snow and ice budget. And then, like we talked about, the insurance increases, school transportation cost increases. I think there's some labor union contract negotiations that are going to end up getting approved. And all that stuff, I think, is what's adding up to that $8 million.
Well, so that available free cash is not the same fund as the stabilization account.
Right, so there's still a stabilization fund, and
Right,
that's,
for emergencies.
I think at one point it only had, a very small amount in it, 10,000. I think it's up over, 15, 20 million somewhere in there.
So we only need 2.5, right?
I'm not sure what the rules are for dipping into the stabilization fund. I don't know if there's any desire to do that. That would be a conversation to have with the auditor and the mayor's office, is if that's something that they would entertain.
Well, I'm gonna leave that up to you and Jacqueline to do, because it's your department, and I think she'd listen to you more than she listened to me. And I don't know if because right now our timeline is off. It's off, right?
We are, we lost about a month
A month,
in the winter's time with just site investigation, getting these deliverables squared away. So the original schedule that we had in the beginning of January, we were wrapping this phase up, should have been wrapped 2 weeks ago.
Right.
We're looking to be done first week of May.
And I think you noted in your email to me or to us that puts our construction phase into the winter months, which is not acceptable.
Not ideal for this scope of work.
Right,
Maybe if we were doing the interior stuff, but
yeah.
this, unfortunately, winter conditions, it would just be too costly doing any site work, roofing. Right now, that's where we're tracking. So
roughly, you're thinking I'll get the exact figure, but roughly a stabilization account is about 15 to 20 million.
Roughly, those are the last figures I heard. It was somewhere around 15 or 18 million.
15 to 18.
Right, now we can dip into that because that affects your bond rating.
It affects your bond rating, and there's a multitude of other projects that are being put on hold. I know that the ones that are currently funded will move forward, and that's, here in the library will move forward.
Right.
And the Crocker School project obviously is underway, and that's already at like 70% complete. So those two projects are going forward. I think police station had a project planned that I'm assuming is going to be put on hold. I'm sure every department asks for different capital investments with their FY25 budget. None of those are being funded. So.
Well, and I understand that and I appreciate that. However, are there roofs leaking?
I think there's roofs leaking in buildings across the city, yes. Yeah. Including DPW.
Well, we're last on the list, but you're last on the list. Well, don't care. We need this money. Somehow somebody's got to give us $2.5 million to get that roof fixed. Without fixing that roof, we can't fix the interior. And without fixing the roof, the interior is going to crumble and fall, which it's already doing. And for anybody out there who wants to view the destruction of the interior of that mausoleum, we have a video and we have pictures. And we could provide a walkthrough if someone truly wants to see the inside of it. So That's all I gotta say on that subject. If anybody else has anything else they want to bring up or mention, or you want to close out,
I don't know if it's now or if it's, next week or some point internally with us, but as far as Answer and Spencer,
Mhm.
we were brought on to do a job.
Right.
The conditions assessment phase is what we were paid Spencer to complete.
right,
That includes all the deliverables, the structural analysis reports, which we have, the hazmat analysis, the estimate, the schematic design drawings. From when we get to that point where we complete this phase, what does that look like for us? Obviously, we'll provide you all with all the documents that we've handed over, but, that period where we don't know what the future holds,
yeah.
what do the next steps look like for us? Obviously, we want to keep this thing going, but we're gonna reach a point, right?
Right, yeah, and I think unless we're able to find that funding, it just, everything gets put on hold until that funding comes.
So does that mean we have to, okay, so if we get to that point where we gotta put things on hold, then what happens to these companies that we're dealing with, Answer and Spencer? Do we have to now go back out and find new OPMs and new?
I'm not sure the answer to that question. That's something we'll have to ask Mary Delaney. I don't know how the procurement office would like us to handle large gaps in contract work because of lack of funding. So it might be something where a certain amount of time elapses with no work and then the contract expires. Each contract, I think, has finite terms and time limits to them. So we'll have to see what their thoughts are and how best to handle that.
So the funding that we were talking about initially beyond the actual roof work, just to get the documents was left roughly $300,000+ish,
It was, I think in total, it was about
380.
350 or 360
something
total.
like that.
And we've already appropriated, I believe it was $75,000
Right.
from their portion of the
Right,
conditions.
okay.
Yeah.
So if we got funding just for those documents, then do we have to, and the project got put on hold, do we have to redo those documents?
Not really, not unless the condition of the mausoleum significantly deteriorates by the time the funding is realized.
Okay,
In other words, if there's additional problems that come up, the documents would need to be adjusted to address those issues. But if the condition stays substantially the same, those documents are going to remain valid as long as the condition stays stable.
Exactly.
Question. To your point, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Given we have absolutely no idea the scope of time it's gonna take us to get the appropriate funding, and where we are under contract with these people, what's the chance of, I guess this probably go more to you, the chance of putting an addendum on the contract as it is now, because everybody in the country is probably in the same boat, that we extend, or at least have an extension before the contract just dissipates and you guys walk away, because then you're gonna get paid anyways, because, it's our side breached. Is there a chance that they'd be willing to sit down and negotiate, just an add-on that, given the financial situation, you have this amount of, a year, 2 years added on, so we don't have to go through all of this again
no.
and lose everything we have invested?
Absolutely. I think, like Nick said, we have a good relationship with Mary and Sam in the procurement office. We can put together a plan, or at least understand where this puts us. Nobody wants to go back out to bid, or excuse me, try and procure another owner's rep, try and procure another design architect. We think we have a good team. We understand the project. We have a good relationship with the city. That's not, we don't want to just walk away. And I didn't ask that question because it's like, oh, we got to get out of here now. More so just, we don't want to continue working if, it doesn't make sense. If you guys just don't have the money, like, I'm gonna, if I have to leave this thing, I'm gonna leave this thing in the best possible place so that hopefully down the line we can pick it back up again.
Yeah.
That's, I'm here so that we can finish the job.
Mhm.
But we can talk with Mary and try and put together a plan.
That just might be what she recommends. It might
Yeah.
just be some sort of contract amendment that pushes that
Yeah.
timeline out.
We'll be here. We'll be here. We'll be ready to finish this thing when it's ready to go. That's
That
my
makes me,
feeling.
that makes me feel better.
And I know Spencer feels the same way. They put a lot of time and energy into this. They're passionate about projects like this. They're passionate about this project. They are gonna be definitely disheartened to hear this news. But as a team, we want to be in this thing till the end. So,
Are you willing to donate?
like it has
Yeah.
to. We'll see.
And just one other thing that it is on the agenda, but I wanted to bring it up with you, Petros, is we talked about the downspouts that
Yeah.
were taken off, and we have, the mayor suggested that we replace them. And of course, we talked about it previous to that anyway, but do you think we should go ahead and just try to throw some kind of
Yeah,
something up there
I
to
think,
let that water?
I think-
underneath?
I think if you're able to cheaply,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, just anything at this point, just to limit any more damage that we're causing to the building. Obviously, I don't know if it's gonna make a huge difference, but
No,
any
well,
tiny little thing like that, if we're able to, just to buy us some more time.
Yeah.
But
I'll do it myself. I know how to get on the ladder. I can screw up a dragon pipe, I think. Okay, well, that was kind of all I wanted to know right there.
Does this plan include the windows as well?
it does, yeah. It does, phase two, windows are included.
Are
in
they
phase
just
two.
gonna, you know, repoint the windows or what?
Refurbishing some,
They are.
yeah.
I think they have a copper frame around.
Yeah, well, I'll get those drawings, what they propose to do.
Yeah.
I should have those this week and I can circulate them, but yes, that is included in the scope of phase two.
Can I ask this question? Is it not permissible for Petros to email all this stuff to the group, or should it just come through the chair like he's been doing? Is that,
He can email it to the group. There just can't be any discussion if everyone in this room is on that email, because that would constitute a quorum.
yeah, so individually?
He can distribute to the whole group, but then if there's comments or discussion, it's gotta be in a meeting like
Okay,
this or.
so I'll just send them to me and I'll make sure that the group gets them prior to, I should have done that. and I'm
He's been
sorry.
sending them to you, Nick, and myself,
Yeah,
and then we can
you guys,
distribute them.
okay,
to
all right,
others.
perfect, okay. All right, well, so I don't have any more, I know there's a couple of things you're gonna look into for us and.
Yeah, I got a couple notes here for
Get
some,
back
just some
to us.
clarifications
Yeah.
that I'm trying to get back to.
So you can get back to us whenever it's necessary. Our next meeting, will be May 16th here.
Sure.
I'll send you an agenda again, and, if you're able to come or virtually.
I'll be on time next time.
Okay, all right, so whatever, I mean, we can always discuss it. But just so you know.
Excellent. And I think by that time too, in May, obviously, outside of the situation with the funding, we should be in a very good place where we think we'll have this conditions assessment phase wrapped up.
good.
All the documents in a single folder, shared with you all, and we can kind of start the review of those and discuss scope and specifications and kind of at least understand better what the project would look like if we're able to
Okay,
pursue it.
perfect. All right, well, thank you very much
No,
for
thank you.
attending the meeting in person. I appreciate that.
I apologize for being late.
No problem. No problem at all. Okay,
I'll let you guys get to it.
yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Enjoy the rest of the week all.
thanks.
Take care.
Okay, so we'll pick up where we left off. Jacqueline was going over her report, and you were talking about the
Asking for, the
The
release
action
of
of the
funding
town,
for the
yeah.
perpetual care,
right.
expendable account, for mitigation of water in section Q, the
Right.
columbarium, and getting the columbarium area ready for, the expansion, but, again, it's asking you not to, release those with, not to exceed $60,000.
Okay, so, let's see, where are you here, superintendent?
So we started talking about section Q and all the water that
Right.
we've been seeing. I think that right now groundwater conditions are extremely high. We keep
Yeah.
getting rainstorm after rainstorm. And we're seeing water come out of places we haven't seen water come out of in, decades. So I think that's one of the issues that we're dealing with in section Q. It was wet to begin with, and we've had
Yes,
unprecedented
couple years.
rain.
Yeah,
And it's getting to the point where that water is breaking out of the ground. It's coming from, basically the hill across Electric Ave.
Yeah.
The groundwater comes down, it hits that confining layer and it travels horizontally. It's starting to break out of that embankment right next to section Q along the slope of Electric Ave there. So what engineering has come up with is putting in basically a French drain system to try to draw that water away from the toe of that slope and put it into that culvert that runs through section Q and the rest of the cemetery. So the material to do that would be perforated pipe, stone, and some manhole structures to be able to install the French drain where we need it, at the grade we need it, and then tie it into that culvert. So plan is to do all that work with in-house forces to try to save on labor costs.
Right.
Engineering's given Jacqueline an estimate, and right now that estimate is for that materials cost.
So this, what am I looking at on this accounting thing here?
that is your
Perpetual care.
balance, that's your balance of the perpetual care,
Yeah,
the interest that you're allowed to spend.
and that, which is it, the
The
50?
total of 117,775.83.
Okay,
Because this is an urgent, essential, essentially needed to be done. I'm gonna make the motion that the trustees approve the expenditure of no more than 60,000 from the perpetual care account. Yeah. Is that the?
okay, a motion to approve. Tell me the dollar figure again.
No more than 60,000.
Not to exceed
Not to
60.
exceed 60,000
$6,000,000.
from the perpetual care account.
60,000. Okay, I need a second on the motion.
Second,
Okay, Andy second. I need a discussion. Anybody want to discuss the motion? So,
One other thing to add, so we talked about trying to find that money elsewhere in the DPW budget.
yeah,
And if we have an opportunity to take it from our stormwater line item, we will. We just need to do some internal accounting to make sure that some extra funding is available there and we're not taking away from anything else that we've already committed to.
okay.
So there's a possibility that we don't need to touch perpetual care.
Oh, okay.
But what Jacqueline's looking at is the authorization to do that so that there's no delays in getting this work done. Because as soon as it's dry enough to do it, we'd like to get it done.
Okay, so, just so that I have it clear, so the DPW, stormwater account is what you're saying, you possibly can look at that and see if there's money in there?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, all right, so any other discussion? That's gonna leave you with
What, 57?
40,
What was the total, 117?
117.
So you subtract 60,000, 57,000?
Right, and I, like, this is on, like, I would not spend over the 60, and I hope to not even spend
okay,
close to that, but I need to be ready to, have that figure, but I hope not to spend it. But if you guys approve it, then it needs to go through council. So there's a
yeah.
time frame here to, yeah.
Okay. So that's,
Have we tapped into perpetual care account for any other?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, when we did the water lines throughout the cemetery,
That was
we did it in phases. And when, with the Laurel Hill fencing, we've done it in phases.
Using
It is
perpetual-
totally under this board's control, this money and how it's spent.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
so the balance that it'll leave us at is about 57,000, so is that appropriate? I mean, are you okay with, if you have to take it out of this account, are you gonna be okay with the balance that'll be left in your account?
I think using the money, whatever portion or
Yeah,
I need to
let's
use,
just say if you have to use all of it,
I think it's something that needs to get done, and I can't wait. We're,
much longer.
yeah.
And what about the Memorial Garden area? I thought you had addressed all that, but is there more work that needs to be done there?
There's one low spot
Yeah.
where water is ponding. It's not the groundwater, it's surface water runoff that just is ponding in this one low spot and is
Okay.
unable to leave. So we need to do some regrading and potentially install a drainage structure there and
Yeah.
tie it into what we did.
And that's included in all of this that you're
Yes,
asking for.
correct.
Yeah,
All right, well,
Question.
yes, we're still in discussion, yes.
You had mentioned that the bulk of the water is coming from across the hill
Yeah,
now, which right away comes to mind that in the future, if we ever do decide we need a new cemetery, and that's the spot where we're going, that's, right now, we haven't got anything over there, and it's affecting the current cemetery. What's gonna happen if we use that property for a new cemetery, if it's got that much water that's coming out of there right now?
well, I think, I don't know, but isn't that the brook, that sand brook that runs? That's what's causing the problem.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is in
that's-
the wetlands, so that isn't affected. I mean, that'll be addressed if the cemetery should go in across the street. Wouldn't that be addressed in the plans?
Yeah, I think if and when we do move forward on that design, it's gonna need to have substantial
Yeah,
drainage installed to
Yeah,
control the
because
groundwater.
there's ledge over there, right, where there's ledges of water.
Right.
yeah,
I think one of the other contributing sources, I should have mentioned this too, is the old frog pond
Yes.
over by Electric Ave.
yeah,
My understanding is that was filled in back in the day.
it was.
Well, that water that collected there doesn't go away. It's forced to go somewhere else or travel underground. So I think that's contributing to it also.
Well, it does have a sewer drain at the corner,
Right.
because we just walked through there yesterday, Monday, yeah, and that's what happened when they did a little bit of that clearing over in that area, they kind of did it without permission to do it, and it disrupted because there were peepers that were in that pond, and they're not there anymore, but the water goes underground, and it comes from further up underground, then it pools
Mhm.
in that pond, and then it kind of seeps down, and then I think in the corner there of Electric and Mount Elam, there's a catch basin.
Yeah.
So that's where it goes, up about, it does underneath. But that's further away from the cemetery itself.
It's further away, but I'm wondering if there's any sort of old buried drainage infrastructure. I mean, we've looked at old plans and tried to find stuff, and been unsuccessful. But if there's an old pipe in the ground somewhere over there, and water sometimes travels along the outside of a pipe because it's a conduit that just allows it to travel a little faster. So that could be leading to additional groundwater inflow over at section Q.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt that that's the case, but
it definitely flows from the pond that way.
Right, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I know, yeah. Okay, well, if that's all the discussion, then we'll have a vote on the motion, and I'll take it individually. So George,
Yes,
okay, Andy?
Yes,
And Judy is a yes. So the motion passes, so you do have the ability to put that through to the finance and city council and finance.
Thank you.
it looks like, based on the sheet from Munis, we put in about $23,000 in the past year.
That is actually is that I was thinking it was the interest, yeah, those are transfers.
It's the encumbrance, is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, this is the interest earned. The deposits actually go into the other perpetual care account that we cannot spend.
Right, the one that's not, we have no
Yeah.
access to. And I was going to ask, now that we're on this subject, not that it matters, I guess, I have an old, I'm gonna do it, but, I'm never gonna find anything I want. There was, I think it was a 2003, report. No, 2022. You had given us one of these, remember?
Yeah.
And there's a trust fund non-expendable.
That's what I was just talking about, when someone purchases a grave.
Yeah,
They have the grave cost and perpetual care.
yes,
The total amount of perpetual care goes in the non-expendable.
okay,
Then the interest from that account is our expenses that you guys can spend.
so are you trying to tell me, and I don't know what it is today, this is 2022, September. $1,456,281 in this account.
There's, yeah,
then
there's
interest on-
1 point something million in the perpetual care.
And we can't touch that
We cannot
principal
touch
at all.
No.
Not a little bit of it.
No.
Why does it make, isn't that kind of like a little bit of money on so much money? I mean,
What's it for?
no, but I'm just saying the percentage that.
No, but I'm saying, what's it for? It's sitting there, but what's it for? What, nothing ever gets
Because
touched?
it's like a loan, it's the principal and then the interest. So the interest we can use and spend, but we can't touch that principal.
Okay, the principal,
But how
I
did
guess
the
that's my
principal-
question. What's it there for?
Just to earn interest, so you can spend.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to ensure that the cemetery will be cared for
Right.
in perpetuity.
In perpetuity, yeah,
You're not gonna end up with an abandoned cemetery
Right.
like you just saw.
Yeah. but,
So it's like an endowment almost.
Yeah.
It's another way to look at it. You spend the money that's earned through interest, and then that endowment stays and it grows as perpetual care funds are added to it. So theoretically, in 30 years, that number should be up closer to probably 2 million or 3 million.
I just think it should be more money because it seems like it's in a very low producing fund. If it's only generating 23,
It is, it's in a very safe account,
well,
and I don't know exactly where it is, we don't.
they're all at
Control that, but-
Goldstone Bank, that's what I was told.
Yeah, I think we looked into this before, and you really have no say, I don't think, on
No, because
where the city puts it.
well, it's because who's ever managing that fund is the person that you need to talk to, but as far as the treasurer told me, she said, they don't deal with it. The fund manager deals with it, and I realize they're in safe funds, but don't you think they should be in funds that have a little bit more interest bearing? I mean, that's a lot of money to only get $23,000 in interest. I can't do math in my head, but
Yeah,
About $1 million, 23,000, so it's like 10%.
10%?
No. 0.01%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's low. If it were 10%, it would be at least 100,000 or something. Okay, moving on. All right, let's see. So you got your appropriation on that. Is there anything else on,
yeah,
okay, yeah, because I did have it on the agenda about the Memorial Day. What, can you just speak to that a little bit first before you
yep.
continue on?
Okay, so in the Memorial Day preparations, the gentlemen are working on cleaning up the grounds and getting it all set. I have spoken to Michelle and the veterans, and we are all set for our flags. The Fitchburg High ROTC will be coming. Monty Tech football team will be coming again this year. And I've reached out to Troop 41, PAC 41. They've done it every year. I just haven't heard back from them at this point.
Okay.
I have reached out again for the portable bathrooms.
Yeah.
So when they're all on the grounds, they're there. And actually, yesterday, Jeff at the DPW, he was discussing about the roll-off that we take. The gentlemen come in all weekend and clean up and help, and we need that, the dumpster that we'll put in the pit again like we did last year.
And are you gonna do snacks and things like that like you usually do?
Yes,
Okay.
yep, yep.
Okay, so that's.
So it's well underway
And you don't need
all
any
set.
outside help from
Nope.
the public, okay. Okay, and then, let's see, this is number one, right after the Memorial Day. All right,
Did you want me to just finish my report?
yeah, yes, please. I
Okay.
keep interrupting you. I'm
That's
sorry.
up, no, you're fine. So the adopt a veteran flags, we've been doing each year, we've been doing
Yeah.
a portion of the cemetery.
Mhm.
I just received yesterday the shipment that I ordered back in October to be able to do some more older sections.
Okay.
About 180 of them I received. So we'll be doing probably a couple sections. Again.
That is so helpful.
Yeah, it is. It is
So
a game changer. I was also contacted by, Monty Tech, the ROTC program. They want to do Wreaths Across America again.
Oh, yeah.
They asked for the number for Forest Hill. I think we might scare them away with that number. I know we've done Laurel Hill in the past as far as how many veterans.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give them those numbers, and hopefully we can facilitate that, because that was really cool doing that.
yeah.
So that's, I'll keep you updated on where we are with the Wreaths Across America.
So, is Monty Tech, are they going to place the wreaths for us? Is that what you're saying? Once?
Generally, the big caravan comes in.
Yeah, was there?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, okay.
They
So
place them
place
and they
the-
honor each veteran as they place them. It's pretty moving.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
We did it, I did it this year at, the Veteran Cemetery up in Binghamton, and there was thousands of people up there.
Yeah, it's a pretty special event, so I would, I hope we can,
All right.
coordinate with them. So, unless you have any questions, that was it on my report.
Let me think, I would have, there was something, I didn't write it on here. Trash and waste.
My question is, as far as the veterans who are buried in Forest Hill, there are those who are veterans where there is actually identification that they are a
Yes.
veteran by a stone, or, other than a great engraved stone, but a smaller blue stone. But we have actually veterans who are buried there, they're not identified as veterans.
Mhm.
I don't know how is that handled, as far as, they have a record as far as who the veterans are, who have no identification as being a veteran in the cemetery.
That's one of the top priorities that I've been working on for the past 10 years or so.
Identifying.
We have maps, and I took the old list from the newspaper that they used to print in the newspaper all the time.
Yes,
And we're trying to coordinate the ones that are not marked and put it in our maps. Yeah, yes, and some that are in the older section, like up by the mausoleum and in this adopt a veteran, we're able to put that flag holder there, and even if there's no other identification, we know there's a veteran in that grave.
Okay.
So that has been an important aspect to recognize a veteran.
Recognize it.
Yes,
Now, so one of the things actually, which the local paper, Settlements Pride used to do years ago, is in obituaries, for a veteran, they used to actually there would be a flag in the obituary.
Yeah.
right,
You know.
right.
Yeah, and someone actually raised the question years ago, it should be only for American, but we would put actually, we had Canadian veterans, we actually, in Forest Hill, our veterans of the Canadian Army were buried there.
Oh, there's,
But we don't see, but the Canadian veterans are not on it anyway, yeah, as far as Memorial Day, just American veterans.
Yeah.
But I remember there was a big issue with this paper when I got calls from people saying, why are we putting, and we have, in Carson, we actually have veterans of the German army who are buried. Yeah, and, again, but I'm saying that that's one of the issues as far as identifying who the veterans are
yes.
in Forest Hill who are not identified as such.
Yes, I'm sure there's still some out there, but,
Yes.
we're trying to figure that out.
Yeah, right, I
And
figured it out.
every year, we get a little bit more, or a family member comes in and says he's not marked.
Right,
Okay, let's get this marked.
but on the map,
So, yeah,
okay, good.
I just wanted to ask, the stones that are over against the frog pond or along that area from section Q up to where the frog pond is,
Mhm.
there's a lot of stone, they're not veteran stones, I don't think, but flat stones in the ground that are getting covered over. When the United Way, is it the United Way group that comes and does a day of caring?
yes, yeah, it's September.
Remember the Friends group did that for the veterans up at the top of the hill?
Yeah.
We unearthed those flat markers and raised them up. Is there, what is that group gonna plan on doing this year? Or do you have a set thing that you have them do?
We generally have them, lift up veterans markers, within like a certain section. Yeah, now the section you're talking about.
Right, it's an older section.
That's the pre-ground section. So, I mean, we certainly can put it on the list.
Yeah,
I just have prioritized the veterans markers and getting them up.
okay. Oh, I just noticed them the other day when I was over here.
I will put it on the list.
I have to wait for Andy to come back to get a motion to accept your report, so, while we're doing that, why don't we just, go to well, let's see, I need an approval on that one. So number 4, the rules and regs, I know you gave us the new paperwork here with the, added verbiage.
Yeah, so it's on page 2, right after where it says, 6 grave lot, 6 by 1 foot, right below there, that is the new, paragraph. All monuments should be made of stone unless previously approved by cemetery trustees.
Okay, and on that, did you have any indication as to what was happening with the stone that we discussed at the last meeting?
I called the stone merchant and let them know that it was unacceptable, and she was gonna get back to the family and, I haven't heard back from her on
Okay.
that. Yeah.
All right, so we did the mausoleum.
Just on that, if I may, the
Sure.
mausoleum, the downspouts.
Yes,
I
yeah,
actually am working on quotes for that.
right. Okay, I knew that you would, but I wanted to ask Davos, Petros, I'm sorry, Petros. I wanted to ask him if we should expend the money because it was included in their paperwork.
Yeah,
They're
like,
gonna replace
I
them
was
with
gonna
top
get-
ones, but
yeah.
I'm thinking, well, we can't wait. We've got to do something to keep that water away.
I mean, even if that project gets put on hold for only a season and we're working
Yeah.
throughout the next year, having the water control between now and then,
Yeah.
especially through the next winter, is gonna be important.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, because they're gonna do something different with the venting up there, and I'm not the venting, I think I read some of the venting and some of the drainage, they're gonna do something different.
Yeah, it looks like they had some of those vents called out for replacement and all
Right,
that.
yeah, okay, all right, so, that's done. Let's see. Oh, yeah, so so the funding source, I'll wait for Andy to get back here. Plug it in. We just need to, we need a vote, we need a
Second,
motion to accept the, superintendent's, report.
no,
I'll make the motion to accept. I need a second.
second,
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Passes. And then, let's get to let's do we talked about, Andy, while you were out of the room, we talked about the rules and regulations, which is number 4, the verbiage that was put in that we asked about, and the stone monument that we discussed last, time, which, Jacqueline just said she reached out to the stone maker and, they're gonna reach out to the family, and, they haven't gotten back to her yet, so.
and they cut that, did they say?
They were gonna talk to the family about what their options were, and I just haven't heard back from them yet.
Oh, I didn't know if they said they were able to.
Yeah, no, she didn't imply either way.
All right, so I forgot where I am now. All right, we did approval of that. Let's do number 6, that we need an approval for the minutes
Make a motion when minutes are
Motion made.
I second that motion.
Okay, Andy, and George, thank you. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The minutes from last meeting are approved. Okay, get that out of the way. All right, so where am I here? All right, we'll go down to number 5, which is the draft letters to the city and state representatives. So I did write a letter. I don't think I took it with me now, did I? Yeah, I know I do. There you go. All right, well, I don't think I need to read them. I was gonna just email them to you.
Yeah, if you want to email them to me, I can forward them along, proofread them, forward them along to mayor's office, this city and state reps. So,
Yeah, that's what I had.
Representative Kuchmarek and then Senator Cronin.
Yeah, I put this one out, which is, I didn't put a title, and I didn't put any dollar figures in anything because, you know, I wasn't quite sure where we were with the funding numbers, but for the, is it okay if I read them or should I not read them?
Yeah. that's-
Okay, so the one that goes to the city and state representatives, dear so-and-so, and I forgot to put the date on here, the date in. So cemeteries serve as a sacred place, so critique this in any way you want when I send it to you, so take out wording or, you know, whatever, I mean, it's just me talking. Where we honor our departed loved ones and preserve the histories of our communities and the stories of those who have shaped our communities. Maintaining these spaces requires substantial effort and resources, like private funding options, including donations from individuals, corporations, or foundations that have a vested interest in preservation of local history. Forest Hill Abbey Mausoleum is the historical backbone of our community. There are 4 veterans we know of that are entombed in our abbey. There are 2 Civil War veterans, and I put their names, and 2 World War I veterans, and I put their names in. I'm sure there are plenty more veterans entombed there. We as trustees know the competition for municipal funds are scarce. Preservation has become a very low priority for the city. Partnerships include nonprofits or friends groups can help with public programming and provide volunteer labor, promote fundraising. But we as trustees have our hands tied as we have been told we cannot participate in these endeavors. There are YouTube videos, one called Deserted After Death, Inside a Crumbling Mausoleum, and another one called The Terrifying Truth About the Abandoned Mausoleum, that show what happens to mausoleums when they are not maintained. These videos are heartbreaking, to say the least. The trustees are faced with the challenge of preserving the people buried here who have no family left or whose families have moved away, and so is the city of Fitchburg. We are a public cemetery. Forest Hill Abbey Mausoleum was built to last decades, and it has 10 plus to be exact. Rich and poor alike are entombed here. We need your help with securing funding for this project, which has already been started with the help of Mayor Vinatali's administration and the appropriation of $175,000. We need to get the roof repaired and stop the water damage done at least this year. Please help us to obtain funding for this very worthy project. Please do not kick this down the road like as many before you have. Any help would be greatly appreciated.
It's well written.
Okay, so I'll send it to you. If you want to critique it, I'll send it to both of you, and because I'm a little strong with my words there. I don't want to tick people off, but I don't care if I do.
Yeah, send them along. We'll take a read through.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounded
And
to me. So.
you can attach it with, like you did the last time you said, you know, yours along
Yeah.
with the letter that we had sent.
Yeah, I can write a cover letter,
Yeah,
attach both, and then send it out.
all right, thank you, because I really think it needs to be put out there. And then the one to the mayor kind of says the same thing. We, the trustees of public burial grounds, are requesting the funding in the amount of, I asked for the $380,000, but that was for those documents. So if you want to change that verbiage, you can, to be used to move forward with the Forest Hill Abbey project mausoleum. As you're aware, City of Fitchburg has retained Answer Advisory as our OPM and Preservation Architect Spencer Group. Past appropriation of $175,000 what's been issued has allowed us the opportunity to procure the OPM and preservation architects. The next appropriation of funding we're requesting will be to help us bring to us the construction document phase, the bidding phase, and the construction administration phase. Since 1971, the Abbey has been in disrepair and has had money put into it for Band-Aid repairs up until now. It's now time to repair and restore this beautiful and gracious building to its former self. It is imperative that the City of Fitchburg, along with the trustees of public burial grounds, complete the renovation and repair of our historic Forest Hill Abbey mausoleum, which has stood the test of time for over 100 years. The people of this great city of Fitchburg who are entombed here deserve to have their eternal resting place preserved and honored. We as trustees are the stewards of these hallowed grounds, and it is our duty to honor them. As always, we appreciate the assistance and support of the mayor's office and the city council in this effort to restore the Forest Hill Abbey mausoleum.
Sounds good too.
Okay. All right. So I'll send those to you.
Okay.
And then, now, when I was at that ethics course we just took, that guy said that if I read things, they have to be entered into the minutes.
So I think typically that's true. And what I would do is when you draft the minutes,
Yeah.
instead of writing it all out again, just attach both of those to the end. That's,
So I can send them as attachments, in other words?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So in the minutes itself,
yeah,
I would just write, when you get to that line, just write see attached.
see attached, okay.
And Judy Perla read draft letters to the mayor, see attached.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And then the last item, oh, not the last, because we haven't talked about the foundation, kind of hit on it a little bit, but the social media programming, which is what you guys were talking about, Andy and George,
Yeah,
number 9.
I want to point out, actually, discussing our plight as far as the funding needed for this mausoleum repairs. And having it done actually on a program on FAD is essential, I think, to let the public know. But I think also it would behoove us actually because Nick Glennie informed me just recently, or for the past 2 weeks, that any program that is put on FATV now can be shared. In the past, it's been shared by the local area access, Ashburn West, Lunenburg, Leominster. But now they have the ability to share any community access station in Massachusetts can pick up any program that actually they actually he can post now any program that's done on FATV to make it available to any access station in the state. In as much as we have people who were born here or raised here, grew up here, who moved outside the area, making this the possibility of them seeing this, where if they're living in the state, seeing the plight, our plight as far as what the mausoleum is going through, may help us. We have to spread the word out to as many people that we can.
Well, that's good to know. I didn't know that.
We can now share it, yeah, with
Okay.
all the community access stations in Massachusetts,
All
yeah.
right, then I'll talk with
Glennie, yeah.
Yeah, Glennie, and we'll see what we can do. And there is another show, I believe Senator Cronin has a show.
Yeah, Senator Cronin, and also.
Yeah.
Representative Kushmer also.
Yeah, oh, yes, that's right, he does too.
Both Cronin and Kushmer have programs.
That's correct, they do. Not, and they don't know this yet, but I'm gonna be knocking on their door in another week or two, so get ready, I'm coming. Okay, and then back to number 3, the foundation. I had given you all that list that Liz had given us, Liz Murphy, and we were gonna look through it. And like I said,
One of the things I wanted to bring up is,
yeah,
we talked about writing grants. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, there are organizations, foundations, whatever, that offer grants. We're not privy to what all the foundations are available. But I don't understand how the city operates. The city actually has grant writing. There are people who actually, for example, the school department has a person who writes grants. There are other departments that have grant writing, that actually write grants, like the police department, the fire department. I don't know if they're only confined to that department, they can actually write grants for other departments. I mean, maybe there's a prohibition, because if you're a grant writer in the school department, because the school department reads numerous grants. At their school committee meetings, they read the grants that they receive. Someone's writing that grant within that school department.
right,
That question is that grant writer only confined to the school department and not allowed to write grants for the city? Remember, this is a paid employee of the city. Cannot that person who's writing grants for the school department not write grants for any other department? Is only confined to the.
I don't think there's any rules prohibiting that.
Yeah.
I think what happens is that there's only a few grant writers in the city.
Yeah.
And each one is tasked with their department's grants.
Right.
And each department in the city is kind of siloed, so they focus on their own work first.
Right.
And then if they have any time, they would help with other departments if the request is made. I think having the extra time to help other departments is the challenge.
Yes.
I know within DPW itself, I received $1.3 roughly $1 million worth of grant funding last year through the grant, MVP grant program. I received grants through the dam and seawall program for some of our dams work. Our Parks and Rec director receives many grants for parks and rec activities. So we're successfully writing grants within DPW. I think part of the issue is just, I don't know where to look for cemetery specific grants. So that's where I need help. But we don't have anyone specific that is a grant writer per se. Like all the grants that we get are, I mean, right now, usually they come from me or James. And we've got our plates full with a lot of other stuff too. So finding time to write a grant, apply for the grant, administer the grant, and then do all the reporting required is that's a lot of extra work to take on. So it'd be extremely helpful if we had other assistance from other departments.
Yeah.
What
Community
about
development.
somebody who just writes the grant, and then we can do the rest? Is that possible?
I mean, we don't have any grant writers on our staff. That's what I'm saying. Anytime we apply for a grant, it's one of us that's tasked with a million other things, taking time out of our day to actually write those
So
grants.
you're writing the grants.
I'm writing the grants, or James is writing the grants if they're Parks Recs related. And I think fire department's similar. They've got a couple of people on staff that are good with writing these grants, so they'll go after them when they've got time to go after them. Police department, I believe, has their own dedicated grant writer. And I think she's successful with police department specific grants. Chief Martin has offered to help us write grants for some other stuff. So I think there's definitely interest in kind of sharing those resources among departments. It's just a matter of finding the right person that's got a little time to help. And then if Spencer Group can help us identify at least which grants are out there for cemeteries, that focuses our efforts a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, if I know of a grant program that's willing to give us $2 million for a mausoleum, I'll happily sit down and take the time to do what I can to write that grant and go after it. But what I'm having trouble with is finding those grants.
and that's exactly what I have been going through since our last meeting. I have been racking my brain online. I had a list here. You can do everything on preservation.
Yeah.
However, the problem with that was, and we all know, is that you have to be designated either a historic district, which that part of the city is not. You have to be designated as either a national preservation organization or mass preservation organization, which if we try to just isolate the mausoleum and designate it as a historic building, then our hands get tied. Because once it's granted, then they take over. And like this building, everything has to be done. So if this window treatment was 100,000, they're probably gonna charge 300,000. If you wanna use a certain brick and mortar, no, you can't, you gotta use specific, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but in other words, they have a criteria that you have to follow. So that was a reason. We sat with the Historical Commission multiple times. We sat with the Historical Society a couple of times. And we came, as a board, we came to the conclusion that it wasn't in our best interest to do that. However, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it now, but you know, part of me says maybe we should do it, and the other part of me says, I don't want our hands tied, because now we're looking at imploding that price by a lot of money.
But if that's the only way to get the amount of funding that we need,
Right,
maybe it's a road that we have to go down. I
right.
mean, I agree with exactly everything that you just said. So I had a conversation with the contractor that worked for the Harper Furniture Building redevelopment. So that was a building within a historical district, and they needed to make sure that the rehab to the existing structure followed historical guidance. So everything was period specific. So one of the things specifically that he mentioned to me was the windows in that building were 3 to 4 times the cost of normal windows, and they had to be custom manufactured and all that. So I could see issues like that coming up with this mausoleum project. But if that's the only way to get a few $1 million, then
Yeah, I mean, that, yeah, I mean, it was, what am I do with the paperwork, but exactly that, Nick. All these places for grants, when you put in cemetery or repairing mausoleum or anything like that, there are all these preservation groups, and you have to designate. And when Turk and whatever that attorneys group was that did the mausoleum thing back in 2000 for the city, Forest Hill Cemetery and Laurel Hill Cemetery were included in their inventory, but they would never, it never went any further as designated historical cemeteries, remember?
Correct, so
We
they
did all that.
did the initial paperwork, but it never got filed.
Right,
And then when we revisited it, it was a matter of, we needed to redo the paperwork.
right,
And that was a big chunk of change to hire somebody to redo that paperwork. And then when we looked at what funds were available, they were minuscule.
Yeah.
So the cost of getting that individual to rewrite it and what was available at the time, and that was, I don't know, 5 or 7 years ago,
Yeah.
there wasn't many grants. But with that said, I think maybe it might behoove us to see what Lynn comes up with. Does she come up with some serious cash that if we do that historical designation, that it might be worth it for us?
yeah.
So I'd be interested to see what she comes back with, because she's really in the know of what's out there.
Exactly, and that was the reason why I mentioned it to Petros, because she is a preservationist, and that was one of the main reasons why we really looked at that company, was because out of the 3 that we investigated, she was like gung ho. This was like her baby. She loved this project. Am I right?
Yeah.
And she really wanted to take it on, and because of her status in her company, we thought, well, great, because she knows what she's talking about. So hopefully she can, I mean, maybe we have to pay her. I don't know. Do we have, I don't know what they charge.
We have nothing.
We have nothing.
Well, not at this point, but,
No, no.
but there could be.
But I'm saying, is it $5,000? Is it $10,000? I mean, what do these people charge to write a grant? If it's little money, and I don't know what little money means, but
So I've used consultants in the past to help me write grants.
yeah,
And typically the charge has been between $5,000 and $10,000.
okay,
And that usually consists of, putting the grant application together, sitting down with me and going over the draft, incorporating any changes, and then assisting me with actually filing it with whatever the grant agency
Yeah.
is. So I can see that order of magnitude cost.
Yeah,
If we were
I
to-
figured as much.
But then if you don't get the grant, you're about 10 grand, right?
But if you don't get the grant, you're out money, and then a lot of times there's the expectation that if a consultant is helping you write the grant, they're gonna automatically get the scope of work assigned to them if the grant is successful, so.
Which puts them out of business then.
Well, I think she would expect to get the work, but she's already been awarded the work, so it's not
Well,
really.
no, but what I meant was, is if it were a different person, let's say,
Oh, yeah,
yeah, then all this money we've already paid out is like, we just lit it on fire.
right.
But yeah, but this is why hopefully we'll all say the rosary that she helps us in some capacity. And then the other thing I wanted to say about that too was the fact that, the grants, anytime I looked for anything, they weren't a lot of money. The only one grant that I think I remember when we spoke with the Historical Commission was Mrs. DiGeronimo at one point, it was the Salem, some historical cemetery in Salem, Massachusetts. They got awarded like $120,000 for the cemetery to renovate a portion of it. And she was maybe the Chamber of Commerce up there at one time or something. I don't remember it completely, but she was a good source of information. However, we never went through with any of it either. So I don't know if any of you, the two, I know I talked with Michelle and she looked through the list that I had sent to all of you, that foundation list, and she was running into the same problem I was running into. It was, I couldn't find anything. She found phone numbers, and her conversation with me is you have to just cold call these people, you know, have a little speech ready and just beg them for money. I mean, just not through a grant process, just look, I know you donate so much money, can you give us like $5,000 or what's your limit or whatever, and just
Soliciting donations.
just
basically.
cold call soliciting donations of some sort.
Yeah.
And Megan, the young lady that I spoke to at the foundation, she said what their group could do, and I didn't know how to respond to that, is they hold the money, so they're like the bank. So when the donations come in, they hold the money, but we don't need that kind of a situation here because the money would go, if it was earmarked for a particular, the mausoleum, it would go into your accounts.
It would probably go into a separate grant account that the auditor would set up. And then for each of those grants or donations, we would need to go in front of city council and request approval of expenditure of those funds for whatever the purpose is. In this case, it would be the mausoleum.
That's what I was gonna say. So I know that a lot of the grants are matching grants. So let's say you get a grant for $100,000, the city has to match it. If they're not gonna match it, then you can't accept the grant, right?
Exactly, and that's the situation I run into with a lot of the grants that I apply for. And that's primarily what that stormwater account that I have gets spent on is matches for grants for other stormwater stuff. So like last year through the MVP grant program, you have to match 25% of the grant amount with either cash or in-kind match hours.
Yeah.
Usually we do a combination of that. We'll donate some of our time for the grant administration, and then we'll provide a cash match to make up the rest.
Yeah.
Dam and seawall, I think that was a 20% match. I think there's some grants on the Parks and Rec side that don't have any match, which is fantastic, but usually there is that requirement.
That's what I found. It's like if you're awarded the grant, the city, in their verbiage, it says the city has to have the funding to match the grant, either by 10%, 50%, whatever the stipulation is. So those grants really wouldn't be of any use to us because we know we can't get the matching portion of it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unless there was matching funds available or were matching funds available somewhere, but we'd have to figure that piece of it out. I think water and wastewater have been successful with grants also, and I believe they run into the same situation with match requirements.
I know, I watched those meetings. Yeah, Andy.
we're not 100% clear on, how much soliciting we can do for
I'm waiting for the
one.
solicitor to get back to us.
But in case we get the green light, I'm also thinking, we took out like a full-page ad in the newspaper. Not everybody watches cable TV. I mean, more choose a cable.
Well,
Newspaper, have a picture of the mausoleum, and just have a prepared statement that, yeah, something like that, and just put down, we need your help, and just say, the people that reside there are pleading for your help, and just, like I say, that would get it out to another, portion of the population as well, I would think, that don't watch.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, and I was thinking maybe Councilor Cragen could help us. She writes for the Rebel, is it? That her
She has
little,
her own public.
the little publication, and she's done a lot of her historical presentations to the Stratton players at either Laurel Hill or.
But she also has contact with the Boston Globe.
Right,
I mean,
So-
a piece in the Boston Globe, a feature story about this, the plight might be effective, because I can talk to Sally about,
okay, that would be,
having a report, having someone actually write a story
right.
about what we're experiencing.
So I was at the Historical Society the other day. I spent 4 hours there trying to go through the city budget to see what happened to all the money that we had in the mausoleum account, because there was an endowment account that was established at the time and of the mausoleum being built.
Yeah.
And nobody knows what happened to that money. And when I spoke with Auditor Brooks on the subject, he said over time, that account changed names and there was like $3,000 in it or something like that over 100 years. So I don't know what, his theory or his thought process was at some point along the way, the city needed to use the money from that account to do whatever. But I was looking for some clarification to support that theory and I couldn't find it.
Another thing, take a still from the video we showed of the interior,
Yeah,
specify that that's not ours, but is this what you want ours to look like?
right,
Because this is what happens when you totally ignore
right.
one of your, gems in the city,
Yeah.
of the city.
It's true, and I found this news article, the Fitchburg Official Seek Repairs a Mausoleum, and this was Alfred Magai, I believe his name was. He was the acting superintendent at the time. This was 1971, and listing the same issue. So that was only 50 years. It was built in 1920, opened in 1920. So 50 years later, they had already started having issues. City mausoleum chained. They condemned it.
What year is that one?
1972, March 24. They condemned it. This is March 16th, 73, mausoleum repairs start. March 9th, 1973. This was Day-Prey Roofing, an article in the Sentinel, $4,958 trying to repair the roof. So here's the proof. And it's been, as I said, I hate to say that, but it's been kicked down the road ever since. Not that we haven't been trying to fix it, but we have, we just don't. Now, it's not just a repair. It's a complete renovation to stop the damage. This one is about the Security Mausoleum, June of 1921. And I tried to find this company. It was housed in Fitchburg Community Mausoleum as the construction of the Security Mausoleum Company. And it talks all about it, how you can buy the psychology of it.
Did it state in there any amount? that was provided in that endowment?
Yep, in each instance, the mausoleum is endowed, thus it is assured of pertinence. One of the most melancholy spectacles is a neglected graveyard with sunken graves, fallen headstones, and rampant weeds, and they are not infrequent. They are a menace to their health of the living. Permanent sorrow, silence. Up here. I might have plagiarized some of these words, public, so don't hold me to it, but I probably did. Plagiarize, let's see. And it just goes on to say that, Security Mausoleum wishes to announce that 30 more reservations will close, all with space remaining unsold. And this may be your last opportunity for securing space in this building. On July 1st, there is an advance of price on all the unsold spaces. The building will be open for your inspection next Sunday. But this was 1921, the House of 1,000 Memories. So I'm just saying, but you're right, we've got to get the word out. We've got to spread the word. So that'll be my next project. But if you can help with FATV,
Yeah,
George, that would be helpful, because I know you sit on the board, don't you?
I'm on board.
Okay, so that would be helpful.
No, the sad fact is, the residents of Fitchburg are totally unaware of the situation for the mausoleum. And in fact, there are residents in the city are not even aware that there is a mausoleum, for one. They have no idea. There are residents who have never actually visited Forest Hill at any time. But again, overall majority of residents are totally unaware of the situation, of the need for a renovation of the mausoleum.
Yeah.
It's been in disrepair for many years, yeah. It
Well-
needs to be addressed.
So that was my reason for emailing the solicitor, because even though the mayor's office said we should look at other sources of fundraising, I wanted to just be sure that that's something we can do as a group, as a committee. I don't want to do something and then find out later that, we violated some ethics rule or some rule or whatever, and, all our efforts are in vain. So I just want clarification before we start anything like that. But if you can help out with, I'll give you that task. You can email me if you have success or not, and I'll send those letters to you, Nick, and you can look it over, and you and Jackie and edit or whatever you need to do. And then, like you said, it needs to be put out there. So the only other thing I have, unless anybody else has any thing they want to talk about, just why I put this in here, announcements, Bernard Schultz, Ward 1 Councilor. I had invited Mr. Schultz to the board today, but he emailed back and said that he's unable to attend because he teaches on Thursday mornings. And I gave him our May date of May 16th and our June date of June 20th. And he said he might be able to attend the June meeting, but he won't know, until that week. So I wanted him to be abreast of what's going on. I guess even though I put it in our minutes at the end that we're being broadcasted on FATV for anybody that wants to watch, or they can read the agenda and read the minutes. I'm very prompt about getting them on the website, city's website. He hasn't seen them or watched them or.
I mentioned to him before,
You did.
and all I got was, I want to know what's going on here. I'll just go get the minutes or whatever. Because I had invited him,
You did?
and when he first got on it, believe it or not, that a couple of years ago anyways. and, didn't seem overly enthusiastic or to come, so.
Story.
Well, it's one thing inviting Bernie Schultz here. He's Ward 1 council.
Well, it is his ward.
I mean, it is a board. However, I have to applaud him. I have to thank Bernie Schultz, as well as actually Ward 3 councilor Andrew Kuchar.
Yeah.
Because those two ward councilors are the most active as far as having ward meetings that are televised. I mean, maybe there are other ward councilors doing it, but the ones who are the most active, Bernie Schultz, I think, is the most active among ward councilors as far as holding ward meetings in the legislative building that is recorded and televised, for, on FATV. And I think we can also have him. We actually, Jacqueline, could be invited to attend one of those ward meetings he has, and to let the public know. Not only let the ward know, but the entire city know, because that is watched, again, by all the anyone who wants to watch his ward meetings, I think it would be very valuable to have that discussed at a Ward 1 meeting, that he has in the legislative building.
Absolutely. I believe he has another meeting scheduled. I missed the date. It's in May. Weren't you at the last meeting?
I was at the last meeting, I forget what he said the next meeting was,
It's
but usually
either
it's
first
once a
or-
month.
First or second?
He's very active. He's the most, to me, he's the most active.
I'll email him and ask him. I think he said it was May. It's the first or the last Monday in May. I have it down as the 13th, but I'm not sure if it's the 8th or the 13th.
The 13th sounds right.
Because I was planning on showing up. The mayor is gonna be there as his guest, so I don't know how that's gonna go over, but.
But Bernie's very willing to accommodate, requests to share information typically. So I would reach out to him ahead of time. He might give you an opportunity to speak at that Ward 1 meeting.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'd CC him on the minutes that you send into the clerk's office, just so he can read them.
Yeah, well, that was my error, and I should apologize in public for that, because I did have the distribution list, but for some reason, I wasn't sending them to him. So I do have to do that.
I know he does teach, I think he teaches English to groups of migrants that are
Yeah,
in this
English
area,
as
try
a
to get
second
them,
language.
into the workforce and all that.
Yeah,
I know he's busy
somebody
with that.
said it was Mount Wachusett Community College, I think, I'm not
believe so,
sure.
yeah.
But yeah, so I will definitely make sure that, and if you could send him that packet that we just given. I mean, I know he's seen it with our presentation at the city council meeting, and I know that they're aware of it. And I don't know if they watch these proceedings on TV or not, but I watch them all because I have no life.
And if Bernie does invite me occasionally to attend his
Yes.
meetings and speak. So the past meeting, this past month, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about another project going on elsewhere in the city to connect phase 1 and phase 2 of the Twin City Rail Trail.
Right, yeah, I saw that.
So next time I'm invited by Councilor Schultz, I'd be happy to target a discussion on this.
Oh, perfect.
But if you want to reach out to him in the meantime and see if he'd give you a chance to make an announcement during the next one, I'm sure he'd be
Yeah,
happy.
I'll do that. Maybe reach out. Okay, well, I don't have anything else to discuss, other
Just
than.
one thing I wanted to mention,
Oh,
so
okay, yeah.
if you're okay with the verbiage on the rules, I think we need a vote to make that.
Oh, sorry, did we not, you're right, we did not vote, what number that for? Rules, yeah, sorry, so I need a motion, thank you for that.
Motion, we accept the rules as written.
Motion. Andy to accept the. And I need a second,
Second.
George, thank you, George. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes. Thank you for the reminder. Okay. Oh, I scribbled in here. Okay, so then just the next meeting will be held May 16th, 2024, Thursday at 9 a.m. in this location. We have one other meeting after the May meeting in June. But I don't have the list with me, but third Thursday in June, I'll let you know what date it is. And then we'll be off for the summer. So if we could like kind of wrap up what we've been discussing today, and maybe work on getting on some television shows and getting some, maybe some write-ups of some sort put together. And see if we can get them out in the newspaper, that kind of stuff. If anybody else has any,
Well, there's also the Pittsburgh Historical Society. It publishes a news, you have your copies of the Pittsburgh Historical
yes,
Society?
I do, yes,
So maybe they can address this in the newsletter.
okay.
As far as, or write up in their newsletter. Yeah.
Plus Channel 7 is always in this area, always.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm up to-
Channel 7.
But Channel 5, I have, what's the name of the one on Channel 5 that focuses on things happening in the state? I forget the name of it, but.
I know
But
the
Channel, but yes, I'm on the Channel 7 probably frequents the city more.
I was just wondering, FATV, do they have any people down there or anybody that could contact and say, hey, look, you know, we got something
Well-
going on here. Is there any chance you could do like a 5-minute focus?
Well, Nick Lindy actually used to work for Channel 5, the actual Channel 5 station.
Whatever.
He has connections with, yeah.
Who is that, George?
Nick Lindy actually used to work, it actually I understand he does actually part-time work for, you know, covers, does production, does
Channel 5.
production for Channel 5.
Nate?
Nate does.
Nate going on.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Good. Good to
He
hear.
worked with him, he was there, you know.
Okay. All right, well, any information that you can gather, you can, just email it to me and then we can, put it on the agenda for, next meeting, so.
Well, I'll be heading over to FATV after this meeting.
You are, oh, good, George.
I will discuss it with Nate right
All
after.
right, very good, okay. And, okay, I think that's it, unless we have anything else to discuss, I'll ask for an adjournment,
Motion we adjourn.
okay? And a second, please.
I second that.
All right, and we are adjourned at 11:16. Okay, thank you.